Hey y'all, it's Billy Hell, and I have something to share with you. Um, you may or may not know that I come up with an idea, and then I think about it, and then I start executing via the internet, and then it all comes to my house, and I put it together. And I'm saying it in general terms because just about everything hanging on my wall was birthed, thought, and created this way. But I have something new. It is a lap steel. I'll give a little overview. I would always look at lap stills and think, that's cool. But why would I pay money for that when I could buy a really cool guitar and just play the slide? And so my daughter came downstairs, I guess about 2 months ago, and she said, you should do ambient slide music. I was like, yeah, that sounds right up my alley. In the 90s, I was in a band out in LA called St. Christopher. And I was we played, it was like acoustic rock and not really ambient, but I was sort of an ambient player in a way. And so I was like, yeah, that kind of goes back to what I really enjoy, which is weird because I play so much blues. But anyway, I started playing slide, and then I realized that the real ambient guys that played like that used lap steel. I was like, I'm not going to buy a lap steel. I don't think I would ever do such a thing. And I don't want a thing that takes 30 minutes to set up and all that good stuff. So I got the next best thing, which would be did I say lap steel or pedal steel? I'll never play pedal steel, but lap steel seems very interesting. So I got on Reverb and I found a store in North Carolina, and they always have cool stuff. If I was cool, I'd tell you the name of the store, but I know that it won't be easy. So it's not something I can just pull up. But they did me right and gave me a super deal on the 60s. And I was also and am into 60s guitars and gold foil pickups. So let me grab the first one. This is a 60s Guiatone lap steel. And the thing that really caught my eye were these gold foil pickups, which I'd been kind of hot to buy just by themselves. But it came attached to what is essentially a board. I added this piece on the bottom just to get everything to stick to your lap and stuff like that. But this is just a piece of wood. I mean, if you really look, it's just white wood that somebody sawn in the 60s. And then they I put these tuners on. These are Stu Mac tuners. They're meh. These are like the $60 vintage style tuners. Once again, they don't make me very happy, I have to say. I'd take them off if I had an extra hour. But this is kind of what a mediocre lap steel looks like with a nut like this. And this is the stock bridge, and it ends here, and you're on and off. I will say these pickups are awesome. They really are. In fact, I'm going to rob this pickup. I'm going to leave the bridge pickup. I'm going to rob this pickup, and it's going on a telly that I'm building. It's not a Cooter Caster, but it's Cooter Caster-esque. And this is going to be my neck pickup on that telly. And I'm leaving the bridge so my daughter can use this she started playing it. And I'm like, okay, I'll only rob half of it. Plus, all the switches and knobs are very cool on this. So things to know if you're like, hey, I might want to get into this. Something I'll say is there are different scale links. And the scale links, what they buy you is space, and mostly space in the upper register so that you can get around. Each line, of course, on open tuning is a G, a D, an E, an F. And so you can grab them up here so they're lower voiced, or go on up here, they're higher voiced. But I had no idea that there were different scales. And so this is a very small scale, very short. And the reason it is so that you can get it on your lap and be comfortable. And it's not, way out here somewhere. And they do make longer scaled versions of this, or really long scale. And so I bought this, and I started taking lessons. And my first person that and I don't get paid for any of this, I pay him every month, is Lessons by Troy, which I'll have a link below. And so every day I would teach myself something. And through Lessons by Troy, I literally learned how the theory of this and how it works. And I had no idea. I was like, how does it even work? How do I even play this? You would think that it would be just like a slide guitar, and in a way it is, but mostly it's not. And that's when I'll say that a lap steel is a completely different animal than a slide guitar, and that is why you would buy one of these as opposed to just buying another guitar. So cool. If you want to see some cool blues playing on one of these, go look up Ben Harper. because that guy is a monster. And I feel like he's somebody like us, where he played a guitar and accidentally picked one of these up and just laid down on it. And then now he hangs his life on one. So this was cool. But what I was finding out was, my question was, I can play major chords, but where are the minors? And it all depends on tunings. And there's multiple tunings that you can tune one of these in. And so I learned on the electric guitar, first I learned to play slide in one open tuning, then the next and the next. And by the seventh open tuning I was on, I kind of stopped, because I'm like, I don't know where anything is at. So with the lap, I thought, I'm going to pick one tuning and just learn it. And I would suggest that to you too. And then after you really learn it, then go learn some other tunings. But don't go skipping around tunings, because you'll ultimately not really learn anything. That's what I think. The thing that I noticed was that Troy was using benders to get some minor chords and do some really cool bending licks to sound like a pedal steel. And I thought, man, I want to sound cool like Troy. Turn in my mic. And then I thought, well, what's he playing? So I looked. He's playing a Duesenberg. It's $2,500, and I'm not going to pay $2,500 for a lap steel guitar. But I still wanted it. So that brings us to this video. So after I had the guide tone, I thought, man, I want to build a lap steel that'll do all the stuff I want it to do. And I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I want all those features of that Duesenberg. So I went out and looked. Teaser. I went out and looked, and Gription has a good one that's not expensive, and people seem to like it. And the Doozy will fit on that. But the thing that I was looking at was this airline. It's made by Eastwood. It's a repro of the old 60s airline lap steel. Initially, I have to say, I was taken by the swoopy rocketness of the body. But the real reason, there's multiple reasons really. It has this little block on the back built in that looks like it's exactly perfect and made for the Duesenberg Multibender, which is on the expensive lap steel. So that was the first thing that got me. I was like, okay, I like that. The second thing, the thing that really put it over the top, was that it has a humbucker. And that means I can put any kind of humbucker I want in here. We all know that you can put a single coil humbucker, a P90 humbucker, you name it, you can put it in here. I'm looking at the Fishman Fluence. It's a powered humbucker that gives you the classic. It gives you 3 different sounds, so you can be super chimey and clean, or you can be dirty and gritty. And I'm not sure what the third one does. I've also found that I always change out humbucker or pickups, and sometimes I wonder, was that really necessary? Am I just doing this? And maybe so. So I'm saving the humbucker for last. If I can actually feel like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, I'll buy the humbucker as a present for myself. While we're down here, let's talk about these paddles. So, no, we'll come back to the Multibender in a second. You can see that I've taped. I'm in open D, and the tape shows me where the chords are. And so I have like F is here, and if I put down the second string bender, I'll get a G7. So I use this as a map while I'm playing along with music. The next thing I did, now these mods are questionable. I installed the Multibender. P.S. The other reason I went with the airline is I found one used. Oh no, my window's closed. Had a window open with all the information in it, so I'm going to open that up over here, and that way we can at least give some names as to where I got this stuff. So with that said, I'm also going to create links in the bottom so you can go find all this stuff. Music Folk was the store I was out, and you can only find these for $4.99 retail almost everywhere, from Reverb to, I couldn't find any used ones, which usually says to me people like them and they don't sell them. I don't know if that's the case, but I found one for half the price, and it was at Music Folk, and I went to their site, and it was just a store, and I called them, and they answered the phone, and they were like, yeah, it's sitting right here. And I thought, okay, I trust you. I made the online purchase, and it was here one day later. Crazy. So highly recommend. They were real nice. I called them up and told them I liked it. This thing plays great stock. If you're like me and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to love this or not, and you just want to buy one, I would say bypass. This goes against what everyone says. A little vodka. That's not true. It's just water. This goes against what everyone says on the internet. They say, why buy new when you could get an old one for, $400, which is true. But as we get up here, I'm going to tell you why, because the tuners suck on those old ones. And your pickups might be microphonic or not. I'm lucky with my Gaiatone. I love those pickups. So Hip Shot's my favorite tuner. I like the SG over my shoulder here. It has Hip Shots on it. You can't see them, but I have some 50ZS 125s hanging on the wall. They all have Hip Shots. And those went in without molesting the guitar, without drilling holes. I think you can get vintage, and this comes with vintage style tuners, which were good. The ratios were good. They were smooth, and I don't think you need to pull them off unless you're going to put a bender on it. And even then, I have to wonder if I really needed to add the locking tuners. I had already pulled the trigger. I got them for like $60 or $66. And I thought, man, that's cheap. And I know I love Hip Shots. And every time I tune a guitar, if I don't like the tuners, I get a little unhappy. So these are, you can see they look pretty cool. This chrome bar, this piece behind them, allows you to install them without screwing into the headstock. So if I want to pull these off and put the stock back, which are in a baggie with the screws, I could do so. I did take a reamer that I'll give you a link to down below, and I reamed the holes out just a little to 10 mil to make these fit. And once again, I think you can buy these in a vintage size, but they were $100, and I didn't want to do that. So Hip Shot locking tuners are awesome. The locking thing makes it super easy to string, but also gives you that tuning stability when you're bending. So you know that you're not going to be pulling the strings back and forth and knocking yourself out of tune, which maybe I was doing a little bit with the stock strings. The other thing is Asher, who makes really nice lap stills. They make a Graphtec nut. I think that's what it's meant. It's not bone, it's a self-lubricating nut with kind of a arch on the back. And that's $14. That's one way to go for a nut for a bender. I found out that the guy that makes this, it's Melbert Guitars. I'm going to verify that. Here we go. Robert is his name. Robert Allen at Melbert, Melbert here in Tennessee. I sent him an email and said, hey, will you make me a roller? He said, tell me all the specs, which you can find on the Eastwood site for this. And I had this within a week. Now, the sad news is the machinist that he uses to make all these little parts was found right after I put my order in, he died. They found him on the floor of his machine shop. Sidebar, RIP to that guy, by the way. But if it were me, and I was a machinist, dying in the shop might not be the worst thing to happen. I mean, I don't know. Who am I to speculate on that? But anyway, completely went off the track. Melbert is the guy to get this from. So do you need locking tuners and a roller bridge? I don't know. Maybe. But now it has it, and now it essentially has everything. Not everything, but it's close to getting me in line with what Lessons by Troy, what he was using to get all those great tones. So let me say, after you do all this, or when you get your Lappy, you got to actually learn to play it. And it is a little bit tricky, but a lot of bit fun. Super fun. Okay, one more thing. Now there's a few more things, actually. This is my bar that I'm using. I had all this pulled up. This is a Shub, I believe. And the thing that makes it different than the other bars is the wings are a little bit wider for your fingers. So when you're picking up and all that stuff, this is, I find, superior to the standard bars. I don't even know how people handle those. They must be really talented to take the little chrome bars. Mine's in my daughter's room. And then the other thing Lessons by Troy is doing is he's buying tape, and I'll have a link down there below. It's skateboard tape, but not for real skateboards. It's for finger skateboards, which is crazy. Google that if you want to see something and think, what's the world coming to? But it's kind of foam grip tape that goes here. And then the other place it's going to go, and I wanted to shoot this video. Yeah, we're coming back to that, is on the paddles of your bender. And it just keeps your hands kind of stuck to the surface you want it stuck to, as opposed to slipping off. And if you got to learn how to work these paddles and play at the same time. It's not easy. So let's talk about another thing I did to this guitar, which I do feel like is necessary. The input jack is here, or it was here, and somebody on Facebook said, hey, you got to remove that. And I thought, I'm not removing that. Why would I remove that? Well, it's because your hand hits it. And if you put a bar right there, it's really going to hit it. So I pulled this piece off and drilled a hole. And this is a input jack for an acoustic guitar. It literally was laying on my table. I thought, what am I going to put in here? And it's long, and it'll get you from the cavity, inside cavity, all the way to the outside. Then put my nut on it. It works great. Totally got it out of the way. I think this is probably better for laying in my lap anyway. And and these are made to lay in your lap. I also have built a table over here. I'll show you, and I'll do a separate video on that. So we talked about the locking tuners, which I had to, they're 10 mil and was not hard. I have the roller bridge is just on. I haven't screwed it down yet. I was going to play it and make sure I liked where I put it. There is a little lip right here for the bass, and I just unscrewed these top screws, not all the way, and slid it underneath the fretboard, and that way it's in the exact right place for the scale length. By the way, 23.5, which I didn't realize how much roomier this would be compared to the other one. So you can see how wide the frets are apart at the top, and you may or may not know about this yet. Slants, where you turn your bar sideways at a cant, gives you minor or some different chords. And so this is, like some people say, the perfect scale for that. But also it gives you room to get down here and really utilize these higher frets for a brighter tone, a higher tone. Okay, so the key to this is to talk about everything I did and not forget. Let's talk about the bender. The bender was pretty easy to put on. I pulled the bridge off that came with it, and then I put masking tape down, and then I thought, how am I going to get this just right? So I took the nut that came with it. It's the nut super glued on, by the way. There's no, this is a flat surface. So somebody else makes a roller nut for this, but it has a lip that goes into a groove, and that would not work on this, so you can't use it. But I pulled the bone nut off, and I laid it sideways between the fretboard and, over here, and the bridge. And that was my exact distance. I marked where the strings were coming over the top here to get my scale right. And then I laid this down and made sure that it was in the same place. I hope all this makes sense. And then the other question was, do I measure from side to side to make it perfect? Or, and I decided to go with the next part, I put it on and made sure the strings were in the right place over the pickup so that my high E and low E were kind of in the same place over that humbucker, so I would get good tone. And this is the hardest part, after I got it all lined up, I took a Sharpie on my painter's tape and marked all the holes, and then drilled pilot holes, and then I put it on, and it worked. So frightening, drilling 8 holes into the top of your brand new lap steel. Worked great. This unit is so quality, this Duesenberg. Quality, man. It's like, you certainly feel like you got your money's worth. It is tricky getting the string. Be sure and read the instructions, or you're watching this video. Getting the strings not in the standard slots, but in these benders. So you have to go in. I think, for me anyway, you have to go in the slot in the back, get it under the bender, and then there's a hole, which you'll never be able to see, in here, and then under this bar is 2 rollers that then goes to the bridge. And you've got to get that string between the rollers. If you don't, you'll break your strings. So it involved magnifying glasses and a bright light. And the first time I did it without even, it was just bing, bing, they were on. The second time it took me forever, and I thought, what is going on here? But you definitely want to get these strung up right. The instructions will show you exactly how to do that. And go and look around a little bit before you do that. So, paddles. Boy, so much. This is a stock paddle. This is what it comes with. This, I realized you've got to learn how to get your hand on here and get all those strings and work the paddle. And so I was like, it'd be cooler for me if this paddle was longer. And I have a box full of paddles from all the Bigsby's, Bigsby, SG Bigsby right here, Bigsby right, well, you can see it. Anyway, I have all these paddles left over from old builds, and so I found this one, and I had to grind this piece pretty good and to make sure it didn't catch on the other side. But it allows my little finger to work this pedal or paddle. And then you have your other one, which is worked by your palm right here. And there you go. Now you're a bender. One thing that I didn't really read about or figure out is that this is an interesting setup here. These top pieces are used to get your tuning just right. So if you want to go a half step or a full step, you tune the string and then hit it and see what you got, and then screw this in or out, right? But to put this paddle on, I was like, how do I do that? And how do I tighten these up so they quit moving around under my hand? This is advanced. You unscrew these, which they give you the Allen wrench for, and these come out. Then you have this little roundy piece right here, and that also has a hex hole. And then underneath that is the nut, which you can see, and the nut is what's holding the bar on. And it's hollow. This main bolt is hollow, and then this piece goes through it and then touches your board. And well, that's not a good example, but and gets you to the right tuning. And one more thing, I'll put this in the description. Troy has a custom set of strings. Do I have that on here? Let's see. It's a string company, Strings by Mail. Holy cow, I'm really doing good. And Troy put together a custom set of strings that he uses on his Duesenberg, which is the same bender. And I put those on last night, and they're super cool. This came with light strings, and the bender really did like the light strings, and these are heavier. I think it's a 16 to a 59. Sounds like I got her out of tune. But there we go. I really think I've covered it all here. You could do any or just a few of the things I did and end up with this. So the end of the story is this. Is going with a newer unit and doing all these things to it good? I don't think I can ask for any more, other than being a super great player and buying the $2,600 Duesenberg. I think this looks cooler. That Duesenberg looks kind of like root beer to me. The color, they have multicolors, but they're expensive. So anyway, this is a way to get a multi-bender lap steel with all the options that you can do right at the house, and none of this was hard. And the only other part that you need to do is learn how to play it. So and I'm running through a 1-watt Supro King, Delta King, which is an awesome amp. I have the 10-inch Delta King, and I have this 8-inch Delta King. And I play this, and my daughter stole the 10, and it's in her room on the other side of that wall. And I have a compressor going in there, and delay, and a little bit of reverb, and no dirt. So the one thing I'll say about your benders is go to Lessons by Troy. He has a whole video, and it might be on YouTube for free, where he goes over all the chords you can get out of the open D tuning with the benders. And the great part is let's say that you're on fret 5. Look at that. All I had to do was tilt it down. You're at fret 5. So my hand's here. And you get a G. And you want a C. With the bender, you get a C. And when you're ready to go back to G, up. Okay, so with the bender, you got to hold it all the way down and never let it back up. So you're at C. And you come back up to C. And then this second bender, I don't use that much right now. But it's very interesting once you kind of learn your way around the board. So like, I found that if I'm in an F or an E, that I can randomly hit the second string bender, and it always sounds good. You never go, oh, that didn't work, or just hit it briefly. So obviously, I'm not a guy who's giving lessons on lap steel. I'm just a guy learning lap steel. But man, you get that pedal steel sound. You get the ability to hit some minors and majors, and then you move around the fretboard. So we can get a E here. But even easier is to go up high, and then you can get your F. And you can live on this side of the fretboard, and it's a lot easier and quicker to get around on. And you get that whole different sound. And then you can also play it like a guitar, which interspersed with your single note finger picking and just strumming. And then the real trick, of course, is how to blend all this into a song and not be obtrusive and actually add to the song and not dominate the song. And of course, that's all about learning how to play things. But man, so much fun. Really, really. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm going to play the lap steel. You know, it's like when you first learn to play the guitar and you actually hit some chords and you're like, I can play 3 chords. That's like half of everything. This is so much fun. And such a low entry cost barrier. I mean, it's just not really that expensive. And there are some great options out there. I would stick with the Gription Airline level. There's some SX and some $129 options out there, which may be great if you really just want to stick your toe in and not get hurt financially. I don't read bad things about those things. But if you wanted something in the medium range that you could keep playing if you were good at it, this would be good. I know guys that have gigged with these. You know, they ran 2 and 2 different tunings and used them for years. And by these, I mean these Airline Eastwoods. So they're giggable. They're cool. I hope this has answered your questions. Once again, I'll work hard to get those links down in the description. And that's it. I'm Billy Hale, and I'm always making cool stuff. It keeps my mind running. Y'all have a great week. Be careful out there. Thanks. Bye.